Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life with best-selling author and coach Kathie Williams, a show to help you tap into the support of the universe and access the abundance that's available in every area of your life. Listen in for conversations and tools to create more ease, joy, and possibility with family, relationships, business, and living. Kathie's joyful perspective will help you tap into your own wisdom and create a life of presence and abundance your way. Listen live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, or anytime on iTunes or at OMFM.
Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathie Williams, and today I have a special guest, Jennifer Chabot, and we are talking about how to get what you want effortlessly, which for a lot of us seems like ridiculous because we've been told it's hard to get what you want. Jennifer was even talking about that this morning. But often what we want is not actually what we think we want. So we're going to dive in and discover what it is we truly want, that we're trying to get through external means. And before we go there, I just love if you're listening and you have a show idea or a guest you'd like to see or hear on the show, for you to hop over to meetkathiewilliams.com and let us know. And let us know what topics you might like to see so we make it really relevant to your life. Both of us here are moms, and in this fun time of quarantining, which hopefully you're listening in the future when it's over, in this fun time, trying to run businesses and school children and dancing in that dynamic of both activities as well as many others, and it's quite a fun dance, or sometimes a challenging dance. Jennifer, I know through her work as a VA, which is amazing, just intuitive and brilliant and wonderful VA, but also a facilitator of magic. And actually, within VAing, you're a facilitator of magic, Jennifer. So I'd just like to acknowledge that and welcome you to the show. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's so funny because when you asked me, it was an immediate yes, and I got really excited. And yet I still was like, oh my God, what am I doing? So I'm still so happy to be here. And I wonder what'll show up.
Isn't it fun to step into something that's just like, oh, this is new and I'm not sure what it's going to be like, and just jump.
Yep.
Yeah. And some of those jumps are huge, right? When we jump into a new job or a move or, relationship changes. And sometimes those jumps are a little smaller, yet they still can feel huge. So the show write-up today talks about how most people live as though their happiness or state of being is dependent on what's happening in the outside world. Like, I can be happy if my family is thriving, if work is going well, if money's coming in, and maybe not if those things are not happening. Or I'll be happier when. That happens a lot too, right? Once I'm graduated, then it becomes, once I've gotten the job that I really want, and like on and on. And you and I know something very different from that.
Yeah. So it's like, it's so funny. I recognize that a lot of when I truly actually started to know this and live it is, I guess maybe it was a couple years ago now, I decided to do this series, and it was called A Dare a Day to Keep the Gloom Away. And so it was just kind of this fun way of doing something every day that made me happy. And so it was like, and one of the days I even talked about like what if you can actually just be happy without actually having like a real justifiable reason why you actually can be happy? And it also makes me think a lot of that. I don't know if you've ever heard of the philosophy. I can't remember his name, but the like be, do, have philosophy, right? As opposed to the have, do, be. And so kind of the way that works is like, if I have money, then I'll be able to go on these trips and then I'll be happy. As opposed to like, when I'm happy, I'll be able to go on trips and then I'll have money. Or like, and it just is so funny. Like the way I kind of picture it is like, I like to kind of look at nature and look at, animals and kind of go like, are they doing that? And if not, then why? Like, why can't I choose that if they can choose that? And like, because they don't go into the whole crazy in their head of figuring stuff out, which is kind of where we tend to go and what kind of stops us from being able to just choose it, right? So it's like, if you look at the example of like a squirrel, right? So they be agile and they jump from tree to tree so they can have the nut. They don't do it the other way around. They don't go, well, I need to have the nut so that I can jump from tree to tree and then I'll be agile, right?
Yeah. Now, I so want to ask you about this challenge that you were doing where you were choosing something every day that made you happy. And what was that like for you, and what kind of things did you choose?
So, yeah, it was really neat because when I first started, it was totally kind of like a fake it till you make it. Like I almost half believed that it was still true, And I mean, some of the things was like dancing and some sillier things like playing dress up and playing in the mud and like doing something creatively like painting, singing, just smiling and waving at people all day. And it's funny because it's like, it kind of can feel that way when you first start playing or toying with the idea of being something without having that external thing kind of fulfill it for you. Like it can really kind of feel like you're faking it at first, until it really becomes real and true for you, where that's kind of how it felt like at the beginning of that challenge. And the more I did it, the more I really recognized like, oh, even without those things, doing those things, dancing or playing, I'm like, I can just be happy right now, And no matter what was happening around me, it didn't actually have an impact on me choosing that.
I love that. It makes me think of Richard Bandler. Dr. Richard Bandler said at one point, most people are unhappy for no reason. How about choosing happy for no reason? And it seems so obvious, how many of us actually go there, right? I'm unhappy for no reason, so how about I just switch that? And I love the idea that you brought in that it felt like it was fake, because I think a lot of times, whatever we're going to choose, and we're going to talk about choosing different energies today during the course of the show, but a lot of the things we choose, we think we're faking, but it's actually the truth of us. And I just kind of want to bring in the vibrational scale. If you're not familiar with it, it's all over the internet, the emotional vibrational scale, where anger is low, feeling depressed or powerless, I think, is lower than that. And then high would be love, bliss, gratitude, excitement, like that. So that vibrational scale. And things that are low on the vibrational scale don't feel good. And the reason they don't feel good is they're really out of alignment with who you actually are, with what you actually are. And, if you're in any of my recent classes online, we've talked about the bliss body, and that actually is an energy body. You have the physical, you have the emotion, the energetic, which is kind of like, if the physical body is a light bulb, the energy body or the prana is what illuminates that light bulb. So you have that, and then you have the emotional and mental bodies, and then you have the bliss body. And that permeates your physical body. It permeates all these other bodies, and it's available all the time. And it feels amazing. And one of the things I'm teaching people to do more and more is tap into that presence, because it's more you than the cruddy emotional feeling, right? It's like the cruddy emotional feeling is temporary, but that bliss body is with you all the time, everywhere. So that's available to tap in all the time. And so the reason lower vibrational stuff feels so horrible is it's so out of alignment, out of the natural energy of what you are. It's incongruent. So when we feel good, we're actually being more of the energies we truly are. Okay? And we're going to talk today about tapping into the preferred energies. And I'm just going to choose powerful, right? A lot of the time we don't feel powerful. We feel maybe doubtful or, unconfident. Yet, feeling powerful is actually more true, right? We think, oh, I'm faking feeling confident or powerful, when really that's more true than the story that, oh, I doubt myself and I'm not very capable and stuff like that.
Well, that's really interesting. Like, as you're talking about that, I'm kind of really in the question of like, well, what is that? And what is it that makes it really feel more true than the other, right? And then I go into kind of thinking of like, say, if you were born and raised in a family that maybe has this prevailing energy of anger or depression, then that can almost feel more comfortable or like that it's normal. And so I think that we can almost like trick ourselves into believing that that's what's true, because that's kind of what we're used to and what we grew up in, is that those prevailing energies.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely,
it almost seems like by the end of that series, that became a new normal, or that, I was actually able to like accept it as being a prevailing emotion in my life because I chose it so many days in a row. And so it's like, keep choosing beyond it every day, even though it may seem like uncomfortable almost, which is funny to think, even though it's like,
I love that you say that.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in people where maybe like you say, we think that a certain vibration is normal. And I'll give an example of that that's maybe more related to finances. A lot of us are more comfortable in a certain, quote, class of, economics, where if you grew up maybe upper middle class, that's kind of where you feel better, being in houses that are a little upper middle class. And then you go to the projects and you feel very out of place, and you go maybe to Beverly Hills and feel really out of place. But that upper middle class is sort of like what you marinated in as you grew up. So that's where you feel comfortable. Similarly, if you have a family that was sort of like ho-hum Eeyores, right? Just feeling kind of gloomy, and that was what was normal. So being in the vibration of like, no, life supports me and life's amazing, is totally different. And it can feel a little bit like going into a house that's not familiar and it just feels weird. And you have to kind of train yourself to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right. And then it's almost like you hit a point where it's no longer uncomfortable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So Jennifer and I are doing a class called Becoming, and it's an online. I don't even know if you'd call it a class, an exploration, an experiment, an invitation.
Yeah, well, it's kind of almost like an expansion on that challenge that I did, because I'm like, well, like what else? What other emotions can we actually play with and bring into our day? And like, how much fun could that be? And I also thought about, like, even for my own children, of like how I can playfully bring up kind of like these conversations about what you would like to choose to embody. Like, how can I do it in a more playful way that they'd be more receptive to? And that's kind of where part of the idea came from. And then the other idea was, it was definitely from one of your previous classes. It was called Conspiring with the Universe. And I love the way that you described it was so fun for me, and it really like clicked something in my universe about how you're like, you know, putting on an energy is like just putting on a shirt, you know, and you're just like, okay, well, now I want to put on my my gratitude shirt, and that's what I'm going to be like, that's what I'm going to wear today. And so I just I really loved that idea, and I thought, oh, how fun would it be to invite others to come play with us and just see, like, you know, per day we kind of pick one energy or one emotion or one kind of feeling that will be the prevailing energy of that day that we keep, you know, once we kind of get pulled off of trigger, just kind of remind, oh yeah, that's right, I was going to be happy today. All right, then. Yes. Kind of pull us back into that center of, like, as we gravitate away, just kind of keep pulling us back by being, like, by reminding ourselves, that's right, this is the shirt I'm wearing today.
I love that, you know, as you were talking about that, and we're going to go to break in a second, but right now, it's kind of like an anchor. Your boat is drifting away, and you're like, nope, gratitude. Thanks so much for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. We're going to be back in just a moment. Until then, what energies would you like to embody, play with, as though they're, just put them on like a shirt.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hey everyone. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathiewilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everybody. This is Kathie Williams, and today I have my guest, Jennifer Chabot, and we are talking about energies that we're choosing to be, not based on what's happening in the world around us, but based on how we prefer to be. And I have a couple of stories to share mid-show about that choice, because so often we don't think it's a choice or realize that it's a choice. We think X happens and Y is the response. Of, my pet dies or my grandmother dies. Well, I'm supposed to be sad. Like, that's natural. That's what I'm going to be. But we could actually be really, oh, what a relief. What a relief for them. I'm so happy for them, and I'm so grateful that I got to have them in my life, and I'm, totally different. However, society conditions us to choose certain energies and not even realize that that's a choice. And we were talking about that a little bit before we came back to the show. So before we dive in again, I just love to have you, if you haven't already, hop on over to meetkathiewilliams.com, and you can get a free energy pull exercise to tap into those energies that you'd really like to have as a part of your life and pull them in. I get lots of feedback from that. People seem to really like it. So also there's an energy pull exercise on YouTube. I'm not Kathie Williams. I'm Kathie Williams, public figure, and thank you guys for listening to that energy pull over and over. It just keeps getting more views. It's like up to over 15,000 or something like that. So super grateful. And so let's go into that idea that we're supposed to have a certain energy response, because you and I were talking about that just a moment ago.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because it's like we basically learn how to be in the world from our parents, from the people around us, and how much were you actually like made wrong for having the wrong response in a specific situation?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And anyone been made wrong for not getting upset when you were supposed to be upset? I have. I remember people being like, aren't you upset about that? Oh, yeah. Not really, but yeah.
Well, and even the opposite, like enjoying something that you weren't necessarily supposed to be enjoying. Like I was one of those weirdos that really loved school and really loved learning, and yet that was something that I actually hid because it's not common, and the more common prevailing point of view was that school sucks and this is boring and I don't want to be here. And it's like, how can we actually choose to be those things that are actually true for us when everybody else around us isn't actually choosing that?
What a great question, and sort of an interesting thing to explore. I mean, I, like you, loved school, and I learned to kind of hide that. Right? Like, that's not okay, so I've got to cover it up. Not that I have to act like I dislike it, but just refrain from the conversation when people are talking about how bad it is. You know, like, instead of inviting them to maybe a different perspective.
Right. And it's like, how much are we actually avoiding actually possibly even creating a change and a sense of freedom for the people that actually feel the same but aren't willing to speak up about it, right?
Right.
Because it's like,
yeah,
how many other people would actually love to share their joy in a certain area, like taxes or something that, you know, what is that?
The joy of taxes.
Exactly. And I mean, inviting people to actually choose something different by not hiding that joy or not hiding your enthusiasm in that area, instead of actually just hiding it and falling back to the status quo. It's like, what inspiration could you be, or what invitation could you be to people actually being able to choose that? Like right now in this situation that most of us are still kind of in, it's like, what's the prevailing point of view of how we should be feeling, how, you know, stressed and unhappy and everything that we should be right now. And what if you could actually be an invitation and an inspiration for other people to be able to choose it by actually being that?
Are you willing to be that?
I
love that. Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's so interesting because I think a lot of us have I know a lot of us have a story about who we are and what's available to us. And I had a client probably 10 years ago, actually now, who I just love this example of the ability to change energy at will. She lived in my small town, and she's a relatively shy individual. Like, that's what she identified with. And we lived in Northwest Connecticut, and she went to Massachusetts to take a class, maybe a class on crystals or something like that. And she said, Kathie, as I was going to the class, I decided that I was going to be the friendly person at the class. So I showed up, and when I got there, I greeted people, and I introduced them to each other, and I made sure everyone felt at home. And mind you, this wasn't her class. She was just an attendee like everybody else. But she made that deliberate choice to be a different energy. And she had so much fun being that. So in that experience, she let go of being the shy person, because it's only something that she was identified with, but that too is a choice.
Right. But then that also makes me wonder, so this was a class of probably people that she didn't actually know or that didn't know her.
Correct. Yes.
And so how easy is it to actually do that and be that with the people that know us? Or do we actually keep living out their projections and expectations of how we're supposed to act and how we're supposed to be? It's like, well, and they keep repeating it, you know, to us, like maybe from the time we were, 2 years old. Oh, Jennifer's shy. Oh, don't worry, honey. It's okay if you're shy when we go here. And they keep kind of almost like making it more and more real and true for you. And so I wonder, like, how we can actually have more ease with switching like that around the people that we know. And it's funny because you almost have to really choose beyond people's kind of resistance or like their reaction to us making a different choice. It's like,
Absolutely.
Even when I first started working from home online, there was a little bit of a like period of like push and shove with my kids and my hubby, because it was like, no, this isn't what you do. Like, this is not how you're supposed to be during the day. You're supposed to be doing this, and now you're doing this. Like, whoa, wait. what's going on here?
Yeah, it takes an adjustment. And again, would you be willing to make others uncomfortable? And I know for a lot of us listening, we're like, no, making people comfortable is my job. Yet, when you're allowing them to be uncomfortable because you're stepping into something greater, perhaps it's an invitation for them to expand into something greater as well. Not continuing those old patterns, maybe old patterns that weren't actually working for us, old patterns that are a little bit dysfunctional. Yeah, and sometimes us stepping into something greater actually does make other people a little bit uncomfortable, but it's not our responsibility to keep them comfortable.
That's so fun. It just actually... Well, I was just thinking about, like, just a little story that I want to share. It's super cute. So it's like, not only do I work, like, home from online, like, I actually have a joy in it. And it was really funny. Like, Valley, who's my youngest daughter, she's 5 years old, she actually kind of started mimicking me, which is super fun. And she's like, oh, I'm working right now. I'm like, oh, well, let's go have lunch. She's like, no, I have to finish working first, and then I'll do that. And she actually really enjoys it. And a way that I actually figured out to manipulate her into doing schoolwork is to call it her work. Okay, it's time to do your work, Valley. And she's like, okay, let's do it. This is my job. I'm going to work. And then she actually gets super excited about it, where if I'm like, okay, it's time to do school, she's like, no, Mom, and runs away, right? And so,
oh, wow.
It's just kind of a super fun way that, like, yes, we can actually mimic those, like, negative emotions and stuff like that, but it's actually also possible to do the opposite and have people actually end up mimicking us choosing greater.
Absolutely. And I would almost like invite us to recognize that it's not always mimicking. You know, we have these neurons in our brain called mirror neurons that people vibe together, kind of like clocks. If they're all in the same room, they're going to come to their synchrony. That happens with people, where you are, you know, flowing and happy, and it's an invitation for other people to do that too. And so already, Jennifer, you mentioned earlier, inviting your kids to be a different energy. You're doing it. Okay? On the way to school, when we had school, I used to ask my kids, what flavors would you like in your day? Because we're the cooks for our own soup. So what flavors would you like in your day? And you know, they would always say ease, fun, playfulness, you know, and it's whatever you would like, you have access to. So what are you going to kind of steer your ship toward? And that's how we would do it in the early mornings.
I do actually recall now you actually giving that tip in one of your classes, which may have been another little subsidiary inspiration for this.
What was that?
Flavor of, I think, I don't know, maybe it was the energy pulse for the school thing for the kids, or maybe. Yes. I think that was an exercise that you gave.
I have a product. I have a little online class with recordings now with kids. Kids are in it. Kids are doing it. And, of course, parents and the kids hop in and out and do what they want. But we talk about strategies to make things easier with kids. And I think that is one of the things we discussed and played with. And that is on my website, meetkathywilliams.com, in the shop. And everyone listening gets 20% off in the shop. FM radio is your code, like sexy. S, not F. So you know what? I love the idea of energy as a shirt that you can just put on, like you pointed out, because as we've been talking about, we think so often the way we're feeling, our emotional state is based on what's happening outside of us. And it's not true. And I'll give this simple example, which kind of makes it evident. It's not a big, hard example, but well, here's one. You know, we're in quarantine. A lot of people are feeling, terrible, powerless, whatever. And I know people who are just thriving and creatively in the flow, inspired, and what do you call it? Like so at peace, like it's a retreat. Not that they're forced to be on it, but it's like this wonderful, nurturing internal time. But let's use an example that's maybe less, because we can even say, well, that has conditions. Maybe person A has money coming in and person B doesn't. So let's remove all of that and say, you've probably heard this example if you've listened to me before. But let's say we're both at a cafe, okay? And we're having lunch, and a little dog runs up to us. And one of us is so excited, like, oh, how cute, and the other one is terrified, right? The outside world did not cause that emotion, right? That energy. It's the internal world that created that. One of us associates dogs with something wonderful. The other associates dogs with something terrifying, right? The experience, right, if you're videotaping it, right, is dog runs up to table. But the internal experience is very different. And so we're all viewing the world through filters, like on a camera. We view some experiences as bright and vibrant and beautiful, and other experiences as like black and white or gray toned or terrible with a dark filter, right? But it has less to do with the experiences than with the filter. And if we're not enjoying the filter that we're using, the cool thing is we can change the filter. No one else can. No one else is that powerful. We can change that filter. So, with that, we're going to go to break.
Perfect timing. Divine.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. This is Kathie Williams, and I'm here today with the wonderful Jennifer Chabot, and we are talking about choosing what energy you're wearing and the different conditions we actually kind of put on that from oh, this is how you're supposed to behave, or this is how other people are responding to a situation, so I'm going to cover up how I really feel, or my kid is interrupting, and so I'm supposed to be upset, or bye.
It's been like
no, it hasn't. I'm on the radio, honey.
Okay,
Life goes on.
The joy of coronavirus.
That joy of, yes, homeschooling your children while you're trying to work as well.
tell me how long.
10 minutes. All right. So we're going to lead you through a couple of exercises to help change the energy. And it's so interesting because, you know, like right while we've been having the show on break, I was able to see a message that my son got into the school that we prefer. And a month ago, we got a notice that he didn't get in. But now they've opened up a new classroom, so he's in. And it's so interesting because when I got the notice that he wasn't in, I was pretty, maybe devastated is a good word. Like, oh no. Because as it is, one child is in that school and one is not. Well, nobody's in school now, but, and I would have to drive to one school and then the other. And then later in the day to pick them up, drive to one school and then the other. And to me, life was going to be so much better once they were both in the same school, right? Now that's the story I made up. That may or may not actually be true. Okay. So when he didn't get in, I was like, okay, I'm pretty, about it. However, then I started to paint a different picture. I started to write a different story. I said, well, we've worked at it this year. It's worked out. I've driven and it's okay. And perhaps there's a teacher he's really going to like at this school that he's currently going to, right? In the next grade. Maybe, it's like if I say, oh, it always works out, right? And I started to lift myself up out of the deep hole of, oh no. Now with our thinking, we can do that, right? We can reach for the next best feeling thought. Okay, for me, initially that was, well, it worked out okay this year. Like it's not the end of the world. It worked out okay this year. And then, oh, maybe he's going to have an amazing teacher that he loves. And then, something a little bit higher and a little bit higher so that I don't have to wade around in the muck of, oh no, this was not what I wanted. And in that way, I really think that, if you've listened to Abraham, that is one of the primary things that Abraham invites is reach for the next best thought that you can have in this moment. It could be, oh, well, all right, well, there is school. At this point, most of us would be happy if there is school. So what's the next best thought? And then the next best thought. And I listened to Bentino Massaro recently on a YouTube video, and he was saying, for 2 hours, if during each minute of 2 hours, you will reach for the best thought you can have during that minute and sustain it for 10 seconds, your entire life will change for the rest of your life. And I was like, how cool. It'd be fun to sit with a group and do that together.
Yeah.
As a reminder.
Yeah. Well, and I love that. And it almost like, it can seem sometimes that we're like almost like a victim to it, right? And it's like actually making those choices to have a better thought, or to keep reaching for that next best thought, or to just choose to have gratitude for 10 seconds and sustain that for 10 seconds. It's like, oh, where was I going with this? I thought I was going somewhere, and then I lost it.
I've so done that before.
Oh yeah, like how much does that actually allow us to actually have some form of like creative control over our lives, instead of actually being a victim to everything that's happening to us. It's like you can't control what happens in the outside world, but you can control how you're feeling. And it's like, and the more that you actually kind of validate and prove to yourself that you can actually do it, it's like the more you actually are able to not always be in resistance and reaction to everything happening around you. So yeah, that's always really cool.
Yeah. What struck me is there is something I would love all of you to experience. And I think I ran everybody through it on the show in December of 2019. I forgot the name of it. It's something about challenging times, I think, like that. And it's on the radio page of my website, and you can just download it, and it helps you realize that whatever you're choosing, whatever feeling you're choosing, you're actually choosing. And then it looks at, is it working for me? And if not, what would I prefer to choose? And it's just a beautifully empowering run through of, oh yes, this too is a choice. I'm not a victim to it. It's a choice. And now I can choose something else if I prefer. So check that out. You can download it, print it out at meetkathiewilliams.com/radio. And Jennifer, you had an idea of something we could lead during the last part of the show. So I'm wondering, would you like to lead that, or me to lead it, or yeah?
How about you lead it this time?
Okay. All right.
And I'll warm into it.
We're going to do a little exercise. And one of the things I was trained in long ago was neuro-linguistic programming. And in neuro-linguistic programming, the idea is that if you've ever experienced anything, any emotion, or even hitting a ball like, an awesome batter, then you can do it again, right? And if someone else has an experience, if we get enough information about their internal process about that experience, we can duplicate it because we have the capacity, to see and hear and make internal pictures and all of that. So what we're going to do is tap into an energy that I'm going to choose an energy, but you can repeat this exercise in the future anytime you want, choosing any energy you like. And tap into that energy so that you can bring it in more. Like I have a handful of energies, 5 energies that are kind of my go-tos, that if I'm driving down the road and I'm feeling a little bit frustrated, I can be like, oh, what do I prefer? And then I can say, I prefer to feel nourished, which is one of my energies, and ask myself, how can I feel that way right now? And just tap into it. All right. And to be able to do that is so empowering because you realize you're not the victim to your lower vibrations. You're not the victim to other people's energy. You are not a victim. You have the power to change your state of being at any time, regardless of what's going on outside. And I know that some situations are easier than others, but it's a matter of practice and continuing to return to what's preferred. You know, I think if Viktor Frankl could do it in, the horrific conditions that he was living in, then we really have to step up and live in the vibrations that we prefer. So go ahead and, if you're not driving, you can close your eyes. Okay. And just sort of soften your body. Start to become aware of the gift of the breath that's here for you, nourishing your body every day, all day. And get a sense of a time that felt magical to you. Okay. Maybe you were on a trip. Maybe you had something unexpected fall into place. Whatever it is, where you felt like life was magical. Life is magical. And tap into that experience right now. What do you see? What are the colors? What are the sensations in your body as you experience, wow, this is magical? And get a sense of the lightness. Get a sense of the sense of possibility. Get a sense of what it's like in your body and allow that energy to move at the pace that it moves. And if it moves out of you, then allow the energy to come right back in through your feet and up through your heart. And hear what you heard. And allow that magic to sort of expand. What would it take to feel even more magic, to experience even more magic? How much can I soften into that magic and receive even more? And take a hand and just place it on your chest. Anchor that in. So that whenever you'd like to experience this more and amplify it, you can take your hand and put it in the same place and allow the magic to bubble up. Because you are an infinite being. Every energy is available all of the time. There's no lack or limit. And it's not like when you're magic, you're denying somebody else to be it. No. When you're magical, you invite others to be it. When you're joyful, you invite others to be that. And not everyone will accept your invitation. And that's okay. Oh. But some of them will. All right? And you're expanding that quality on planet Earth. Okay. So, anything else to add, Jennifer?
Yeah, just basically, I love the anchor thing that you do, and I've tried that before, and it really helps. And then, if you actually are in kind of a situation where you feel like you can't just pull it up and recall it, it's like I really do love the other tool that you use a lot, which is like everything that doesn't allow me to feel magical in this moment, collapse it back to energy and expand out. And also even just the question of how much space can I be here to change this?
Absolutely. I use that question a lot. Thank you for bringing those two questions in, because, when we are more expansive, it allows things to shift, because all of it's energy. We just kind of solidified it into thinking it's immovable, it's solid, sometimes we even feel something's almost permanent, which it's not. It's always changing. So, inviting ourselves to be more spacious, it really can create an amazing change. So, thank you for being here with me. And
thank you for inviting me.
And your beautiful stories and contributions. And feel free, everyone, to join us for 21 days of becoming the energies that you prefer in your life, becoming the essence of you. And find that at meetkathiewilliams.com/upcoming. We'll see you soon. If you can't wait till next Thursday, then we're on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and IOM.FM, as well as iTunes and wherever else, a lot of places. Aloha, everybody.